Okay. Are you able to hear me as well? Okay. So give me like 20 seconds and I'm going to switch to the other machine. All right. So let's go ahead. Am I audible now? Okay. So let's go to the slideshow and let's go from the beginning. So this is my slide and welcome to my session. My name is Makarand Pandit and I'm going to talk about what is a white paper. I was glad to see a number of questions being asked about it in Mayank's session, and I think whatever I'm going to say today may actually add to what he already has mentioned. So let's just go ahead. So a very brief outline of my slides today, and I've got something like 22 slides. So I'm going to talk about what is a white paper, who writes it. I'm going to show you some samples of white papers, and if we have time, we'll go in for a Q&A. So very briefly, a little bit about myself. So those who are attending my session for the first time. So my name is Makarand. They also call me Mac. Experience of about 20 plus years as technical writer. Written a number of manuals. I also work on short films, audios, and so on and so forth. Recently, I did a voice acting course, and about 3 years ago, I did a short film making course and direction course. I have published several articles. Some of them also happen to be white papers, and I guess that qualifies me for being a speaker for today's session. I've worked as a community volunteer for a number of communities, most notably the Art of Living Foundation, also as a visiting faculty in a number of institutes, including the University of Pune, and also as a mentor at IIT Powai. So let's get started with the slides right away. So first and foremost, what is a white paper? So it's a B2B communication product. So what I want to say is it's made by a business and it's delivered to a business. So it's a B2B communication product, a document that is used for publishing facts, and it can be used for pre-sales promotion. So a very useful tool in marketing. In fact, one of the reasons why white papers are becoming very popular today is because they play an important role in the entire sales function, and it's mostly used in the pre-sales phase. So very rarely would you give a white paper very rarely would you give a white paper to a user after he has bought your product. Now, a white paper is essentially a public document. So if you are thinking of making a white paper, don't think about selling it because you can't. When you are saying it's a white paper, it essentially means that it's in the public domain and then anybody can access it. So let's go ahead. I have got definitions here for you, and don't worry, I'm going to share all these slides. I'm also thinking of recording some audios which I can put into these slides and then make a video out of it and share it on YouTube. So you can look at this session again, hopefully. So white paper is an authoritative report or a guide that helps reader to understand an issue, solve a problem, or make a decision. Now this particular definition has been taken from Wikipedia. I've got two more. So from what is, so white paper is an article that states an organization's position or philosophy about a social, political, or other subject, or a not too detailed technical explanation of the architecture framework or a product, or maybe a product technology. A white paper, so this one I like, a informational document issued by a company to promote or highlight the features of a solution, a product, or a service. White papers or sales are marketing documents used to entice or persuade potential customers to learn more about the product or service. So it's used as a tool in the pre-sales phase, as I said. Now, who writes the white papers? Typically, companies would write them or governments would write them. In fact, the first white paper was written by a government, and I'll tell you more about it towards the end of my presentation. In addition to that, institutions may also write it. So people like maybe researchers, people or maybe trainers, educators, they will be able to write it. So academic institutions, research institutions, and so on will also publish white papers. Who reads them? Well, a number of people. So engineers, designers, scientists, people from finance, purchase, R&D, and so on. And then the question is, why do they read it? So I have got some statistics here. I have taken this data from Forbes and Bitpine, and you can see that on the y-axis I am showing the percentages. Now here the total is not going to be 100. That's why I have put a bar chart. So almost 76% people say that they read white papers so that they can stay on top of the trends and the developments that are happening. Some people say that they get information about products or vendors, so this percentage is slightly less than 70. Some people use it to compare various products, and this percentage is almost 50%. And many people use it to justify their buying decisions. There were two more values which I did not put in this graph. That was people who use it to search for and look for qualified vendors, and that percentage was slightly less than 40%. So let's go ahead. So what it isn't, so what is not a white paper? So it's definitely not a business to consumer communication product. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a business to business communication product. A white paper is definitely not a brochure. So if you want to sell a product, you are not going to send white papers to your customers. You are going to send brochures. You are not going to distribute white papers to people coming to your stall. You are probably going to give leaflets. So a white paper is not a leaflet and definitely not a brochure. At the same time, it's not a data sheet or a functional specification document. So typically white papers would contain technical information depending on if the subject is technical, but then they don't go into the extent of giving all the functional details, things like pin configurations, waveforms, response curves, and so on. So white papers are definitely not data sheets, and they are definitely not functional specs. Now, what does a white paper contain? And this is where I think I come back to a question that was asked to Mayank earlier today. So, what information does a white paper contain? It contains facts, it contains technical data, a lot of technical description. If you are writing the white paper about a process, it will contain process information. It may even contain comparison. Now, this could be a comparison of technologies, it could be comparison of tools, services, and so on. But then it doesn't just give data, it also tries to analyze that data, maybe opine on some of the functions or features and so on. Sometimes a white paper would also offer a conclusion, a definitive conclusion, or then it may just give recommendations. So typically the government white papers end up by giving recommendations. Now, I'd like to show some sample white papers here, and you can ping me if you cannot see the screen, because I am going to switch from the slide to the browser rather than Internet Explorer. All right. First, let me go to the browser. Let me see if I can click this link here. And I hope you are all able to see the screen. Now, why am I showing you this particular page? Because a number of times there is a perception that a white paper is a PDF document. Now, here in this white paper is published by the Department of Commerce of United States, and it actually looks like a website. But then if you look inside, so if you go to the content that is there inside, you will see that the content is arranged as if it's a printed document or a white paper. So though web is being used as a medium to publish it, so it doesn't always mean that a white paper has to be a doc file or a PDF file and so on and so forth. So you can choose the medium that you want. Now the other white papers that I'm going to show you are again some samples. So I've got some samples here, so let's look at them. So Infosys white paper that I want to show you. Many companies, in fact, most companies who are leaders in their business do publish white papers. Now herein you can see that this white paper is just 4 pages, and doesn't contain too much of information. So it's not content heavy. Let's see if we can, yeah, so I think this is a much better view. So let's scroll up a little bit. So here you can see that since the white paper is very short, they would be using good quality graphics in it. So you can see that if you look at the cover, it will be very attractive. It will try to attract your attention. And again, again, the graphics will try to attract your attention as well. So good quality graphics would typically be there. Now with things like figure captions and so on. And then somewhere here, the organization would say that so and so thing is important. So somewhere in the white paper, they would say that infrastructure testing is important. And then why is it important? How is it done? How can it be done in maybe using an innovative approach? And how can our organization help you to do that? So as I said, there would be a subtle, marketing tone in the white paper. So somewhere they are going to, do their branding. So you see the Infosys logo in there, and you see that they would mention that ultimately we will help you to do the, infrastructure testing if you want. So that's the last page, and it will obviously end with information about the company. Most of the white papers will also give information about the writer. Now, this may not always be the writer, so this could also be a subject matter expert, and then it could have been written by somebody like you or me. So the next white paper that I'm going to show you is a white paper that was prepared by my organization, and then we, yes. Okay, so can we make some changes here, or currently sharing nothing?
Yeah, that's what.
I would have put it on the slide, then they would have seen it.
Yeah.
All right. So never mind. Let's simply switch. So I think you're not able to see the slide. So doesn't matter. I'll be sharing all these. Actually, they are already shared. I mean, all these are white papers, so there is no need for me to share them again. But then I've given you a lot of interesting links that you may want to go through. Right. So let's continue with our presentation here. Now, the Adobe white paper that I wanted to show you is a white paper with 39 pages and actually looks like a user guide. And it's about authoring XML, and it even has things like a table of contents and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, the author has talked about how to author XML, but then when he's talked about some of the important concepts of XML, he has put in the screenshots, which are the structured frame maker screenshots. So as I said, very subtly, the product or the technology should get sold. So that's what is happening here. So samples, so once again, you can find them on the net. I'll be glad to share them. So let's go ahead to the next slide. So some important points about white papers. So white paper has to be based on facts, should not be imagination, should not be speculation. So should have some data, should have some solid argument or some foundation for making that argument, and that data should be accurate. Now, white papers would be attractive if they have good graphics, and that's the reason maybe if you are working on a white paper, either you should try to develop good graphics or then get some professional help to do that, because a number of times people would read the white paper just because they like the graphics. In other words, maybe your text is good, but if the graphic is not attractive, readers may not be motivated to read your entire document. Ideal length for white paper, something like 5 to 15 pages. And I think I just tried to show you some samples, and most of those samples were less than 15 pages. But then the Adobe white paper that I specifically talked about was 39 pages. Now the writer's name may not always be published. So many times we do ghost writing. So our subject matter expert's name gets published. A marketing flavor can help, but then don't overdo it. It should not look like a brochure. So try to use a language which is more or less neutral in the presentation. The most important point, I think, of this entire presentation is white paper could be a good service to offer if you are working as a freelancer, or even if you are working as an employee in a company, you can say that, hey, I'm a technical writer, and now I can develop even white papers for you. So a lot of companies would be interested in discussing this further. Based on the data that I have collected, in the US, it seems that white papers are paid in the range of about 1,000 to 4,000 US dollars per paper. And then here we are talking about a typical white paper of about 30 pages or so. In India, I know that people pay us to the tune of about 20 to 30,000 rupees per paper. And once again, I'm talking about a paper of about 15 to 20 pages. Now, let's go to the next slide, which is the process for writing. And nothing new here, so I assume that everybody who's participating in this session today is looking at is a technical writer. So I think what you are looking at is a process which is quite similar to technical writing. But then let me explain each one of them in maybe a sentence or two. So first of all, the need for white papers. There has to be a business need to drive that document. You'll have to do a bit of research to collect and see if you have got enough data within your organization to write a paper, or then can you collect some supporting data from the net, whereas idea could be yours, but then you are using data that's available on the net. And needless to say, if you are collecting information from the net, make sure that you quote the sources of that information. See the feasibility, see whether that white paper can be completed, whether one of your buyers or one of your target audiences will be interested in that, and can you complete it within the given time. As we typically do, work on the outline first, get it approved. And if you are working as a freelancer, you may also have to get a budget approval on that. Once that is done, go ahead, do your detailed study, design and write. So while you are designing, maybe prepare graphics. I would strongly recommend preparing infographics rather than preparing simple dumb graphics. Then, of course, review your white paper and publish. Now, when you publish, it's very important to publicize it as well as to promote it. So you may want to add links to your white papers. Typically, most of the white papers get published in or on the website or in blogs, and then you may want to put links and include those links in the emails that you are sending. Use those links in your social media and so on. You may also want to print some copies of the white papers and send it to a few selected executives or customers that you want to attract. You can also submit them to some of the institutions, put them on public community portals, so where people may want to search it. So maybe portals like Scribed and so on. So where people will search it and they may download it and use it. So let's go ahead to the next slide. Something interesting about white papers. So first white paper was written by the government of Winston Churchill in 1922, and you would remember that I think on my fourth or fifth slide I mentioned that who writes white papers. So the government also writes white paper. In fact, in Maharashtra, I remember having this read this term in a Marathi newspaper where they say that the government was asked to publish a Shweta Patrika. So Shweta is white, Patrika is paper. So Shwet Patrika is nothing but a white paper. So many governments would publish white papers. So let's say there was drought in Maharashtra, then the opposition would say that the government should publish a white paper. If there was tsunami in India, then they would say the central government should publish a white paper, giving the amount of loss that has happened, the number of lives that are lost, how is the work going on to settle those people again, and so on. So good white papers may even be archived by academic or research communities. So if your white paper is really good, people may actually download it, and many of them may even put it in their knowledge portal, and many of these knowledge portals could even be restricted. So for example, maybe an institute like IEEE, or maybe an organization like STC, or maybe others, even companies may have their own knowledge portals, so they can download that paper and put it in their portal so that their members can get access to it anytime they want. So let's go ahead. So some of the challenges that are faced during preparing a white paper. As we all know, information collection is and will probably remain one of our biggest challenges. So it's also there. Appealing to the audience, how to make the white paper appeal. So once again, prepare a very organized content outline, use good quality graphics. Managing your time as a writer, and if you are working in between multiple deliverables, this again could be a challenge. And if you are working as a freelancer, I would definitely recommend that you try to work on a package of white papers, so maybe something like 5 or 10 instead of just working on one white paper, because when it goes to review for 3 or 4 days, you may not have any work in your hand. So try to finalize orders in bulk and try to work on them. Getting the timely approvals from the subject matter expert or from your key stakeholders and so on, and then avoiding plagiarism, because it's normal that when you are writing a white paper, you are going to look at what technology is there in the market, what products are there in the market, what kind of processes are established, and how is that your process, your product, your technology offering advantages. So it's that data or that research is inevitable. So while you are doing that, make sure that you don't simply copy paste, you take the sense out of whatever is there. Now, a number of links that I want you to go through, and I know you cannot write them down, so rest assured I'm going to share this PPT as soon as the session is over. And as I've already mentioned, I'll also try to host a video there. So the acknowledgements for this particular presentation. So I don't think I would, acknowledge anybody else than anybody more than Google, because Google is sort of my primary search engine, and Google has led me to all the links and pages that I've just shown you. So Google, Wikipedia, Investopedia, and if you are really serious about white papers, then definitely look at these two sites, that is the whitepapersource.com and that whitepaperguide.com. If you go to that whitepaperguide.com, you'll see some FAQs or frequently asked questions. So I believe something in the excess of 50 questions with the answers are there. So let's go ahead. Well, those of you who have attended my sessions earlier would know that I like to do a lot of key day, and here are 3 key days for you. So 3 things that you may want to do. Number 1, visit the links that I have mentioned in the presentation. Number 2, search for a green paper. And interestingly, green paper is a draft of a tentative paper that's going to be published. So let's say if the government is planning to publish a white paper, or then a government is trying to work with a number of nodal agencies of the government, or even organizations like NGOs and profit-making organizations, then it has to send a paper to them saying that this is a draft of what we are trying to produce. And interestingly, that draft is called as a green paper. So I did try to search for other colors also, and I think there is a gray paper also there, though I did not get much information about it. And of course, there are hundreds or thousands of research papers. So you may want to just do this as a homework for half an hour. That search for green paper and search for research papers. Well, that brings me to the end of my presentation. I know that we did lose a lot of time trying to figure out how best we can, log into this session and share this presentation with you. So I'll be glad to take questions. So let me just end this PPT here, and then we can switch to the Q&A. So white paper is a value-added content that can add value not just to your company, but also to your deliverables and your career. So if you are a freelancer, you should definitely look at offering white papers or offering the services for writing white papers to your client. And if you are an employee in an organization, you can obviously prove your worth by writing quite a few white papers for your company. So at those white papers, the beauty of white papers is, as I mentioned earlier, they are public documents, so they are not secret, they are not confidential. And if you are a writer and you have produced a white paper, you can share it with anybody at any point of time as a part of your portfolio, even if you don't work with that organization anymore. And that's because it's essentially written as a public document. So the organization cannot say that, okay, don't show this to anybody. It was open to public in any case, right? So that's one advantage of writing white papers for you. So with that, I think I come to the end of my session. I know I have rushed fairly quickly. So send your feedback to me, mac@technowrites.com. Ask for the PDF of this presentation. I'll definitely mail it to Padmaja, and I'm sure this can be hosted on the SDC site. You can also follow me, and you see my Twitter handle there, and I'll be glad to take any questions. So over to Mugda.
So any questions, anyone?
If they ask questions, you can't hear because the one pin that we have put inside, it blocks the speaker port also.
Oh, okay. Can we ask you? Yeah, I think that's also. I just want to know if any legal aspects are covered in
Are there any legal aspects covered by white papers? Let me mention that white papers are not legal documents. Correct? So white papers are not contracts. Though obviously it's a paper, and if you are saying that my product can do so and so, so and so, so and so, and then somebody finds out it can't, then obviously that can be challenged, right? But then there is no legal obligation of writing a white paper on anybody. There is no definitive structure where you can say that you can or you can't include a particular paragraph in a white paper. We are mostly going by the industry's best practices. And I like to mention here that white paper was essentially a tool for the government to communicate to the masses. And when companies realized that they could also use that tool, they started publishing white papers, right? And then once they realized that, then they always looked at, okay, how can we use it to persuade our buyer? So I've told you about all the reasons why people read white papers. So then they started using it as a communication tool. So the format is distinctly different if you read a government white paper and if you read white paper by, let's say, a company like Infosys, Exaware. I showed you Adobe white paper and so on. So you should read them, and the more white papers you read, the more you'll understand that there is no specific mold for content. There is nothing that's legally prohibited from being put. But then typically it's a public document, so it's your call. But white paper is not a contract, and it does not have any legal terms.
There's one question from Padmaja.
Yeah.
She's asking what are the topics we need to cover if it's for a software product.
All right. So let's say if you are making for a software product, I think you should talk about the problem first that your product is trying to solve and give you an answer. So maybe you should talk about a problem of, take a problem to solution kind of approach, or you can say the current challenges in the existing products are so and so, and then our product or our architecture or our service is trying to offer you a solution. So I think a problem to solution kind of thing is better. So start with the problem, mention out the products that are there in the market, maybe try to list their key attributes in a table format somewhere that they can be compared, and then try to sort of substantiate them, saying that this causes considerable amount of trouble or sort of inconvenience to the user, and then say that while our product has overcome all these challenges by doing blah blah blah. So we have a unique architecture that gives you flexibility. We can have more number of users. Do make sure that you highlight what is called as your USP. When I say USP, I'm talking about unique selling proposition, and that's a peculiar marketing term. Now, when we say unique selling proposition, it doesn't mean it's one point. It could be a mix of a number of points. So I said unique selling proposition and not unique selling point. So it's not really one point. So you'll have to say our product with you and blah 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 and so on. Or then even say that okay, there is a need in the market to create XML based documentation, and this is how my tool can help you to do that. So something like that could be helpful.
Any more questions from anyone? Yeah, you're also.
White paper is by nature it is a public document.
Yes.
So government publishing information like you mentioned or tsunami. So is there any other document which can be used interchangeably, which can replace white paper? Why do you need to use white paper?
Okay, white paper is highly focused. Correct. Now the government, the question here is, can a government use any other communication product than the white paper? And the answer is yes. The government uses a number of things. So if you are aware, you would have read things like the Reserve Bank of India has come up with a circular, right? And that circular is not sent to you by post. I mean, it doesn't tell you that, listen, boss, you have got an account in corporation bank, so here is the RBI circular for you, because you are not at the point of interest. But then a white paper is essentially published in public. A circular, though it is a public document, may actually be sent to a number of people. So if RBI comes up with a circular saying that the repo rate has been, upgraded, then they'll have to make a circular, publish it on their website, send it to banks by email or through snail mail and so on, get signature, get it authenticated, and say that now this becomes something to follow, right? So they can come up with a circular and say that, okay, all the banks have been asked to work on, let's say, 26th of January this year because of some special reason, and the banks will have to comply. Now they cannot send that information in a white paper and say that, but there was a white paper which was on our website, so you should have worked. So there is a direct communication channel. White paper is not that channel. White paper is the public channel, right? So white paper is like a radio. If you are tuned to it, you'll hear it. Whereas a circular is like a phone call. I am calling you on your phone. I cannot put a news on BBC and expect that, Mukta, you must have heard BBC, right? So you know what I mean. So why are you not complying? I cannot say that. So a government would use a number of other communication products, and so would any other organization. So, but when you want to go to public, then this is a vehicle. Interestingly, white paper shares all the content in public domain, and I think a lot of content of our government and all governments, I think most of the governments in democratic countries are supposed to share that based on a RTI, right to information, correct? But then it is a on-demand kind of information. So somebody will ask for that information, then the information will be furnished. White paper can also be asked for, but then the government by itself can also come up with a white paper. Nobody may have specifically demanded for it, but I may say that I think this is a very important point. So that all the nodal agencies and the public at large should know what we are doing. So we have come up with that.
How different is the white paper than the
Technical bulletin will probably have information about, I mean, typically technical bulletins have a frequency, right? So you may have a monthly bulletin, you may have a bi-monthly or a quarterly or yearly and so on and so forth. Whenever you are saying it's bulletin, it means there is a period, there is a frequency to it. White paper, it's not necessary that you'll have a white paper and an amendment to that white paper every 2 months. Whereas a bulletin may actually not be focused on one thing. It's more like a section that will be published, which may have multiple sections inside. So it may actually give you information about some product upgrades. It may tell you about some new spare part, some new technology, a news that has happened somewhere related to your field, linked to that. So it's something like a newsletter. It has got a periodicity, right? Whereas a white paper is like a one-time product, right? So you are going to publish that. You may not say that for next 1 year, every month we will keep on publishing white papers on this. I don't think that would be an idea.
Right. I think bulletin the bulletin has probably more of a news value, and white paper tries to encapsulate all the knowledge related to that topic more than the news value. So, can one white paper